good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Hopefully, we have some guests from Bangladesh. I don't know, but wherever you are, hello. Welcome to the last episode of Inspiring Conversation this year, because next week we have Christmas and like people are on holiday and they don't want to listen to some beautiful Icelandic guy talking about stuff. Let's have a reminder of why we are doing this. So, when you are having a conversation or listening to a conversation, there is something that sticks and you get inspired and you want to remember it. This is what I'm doing. And I'm trying to, what I try to do is find interesting people. And boy, oh boy, do I have a treat for you today, because the lady in question, oh, I have to unmute her. Mwah, mwah.
Hi.
The lady in question is Rachel Druckenmiller. Why Druckenmiller? That's like sounds partly German and
German.
automobile like kind of stuff. Like, where are you? Are you in a car park? No, I don't know.
German. I married a blonde-haired, blue-eyed William Druckenmiller. So there we go. Very
and,
German.
And Drucken, that is pushing. So was he relentless when he wanted to marry you?
It took 5 years, so I don't know.
And he's your child. And you say that he's your childhood sweetheart. Why do you do that?
College sweetheart.
Oh, sorry.
18 years,
Oh.
Almost 19. Yeah.
Oh, host counting. So, Rachel, welcome to my inspiring conversation. And the reason is that I want to talk to you because you had an event.
Yeah.
How long is it? 6 years ago? 5 years ago?
4.5.
Is it only 4.5?
It'll be 5 in May. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have known each other since May or February 2020.
Yeah.
So that will be an interesting call. So if you would start, just tell us about Rachel and like give us a gesture of who you are.
Who I am.
Take it away, fairy godmother.
Well, I'm grateful, and I know our friend Kevin Monroe is the reason that we know each other. He's just like such a great connector of a human, and Tim Sohn also knows Kevin, and I love Tim's enthusiasm.
Well, Rachel is like, who is this? Like, I am amazing also. Hello, Tim. What is happening? Why is Rachel getting all the? I need to do something about this. Thank you very much, Rachel. It was lovely to talk to you. I will leave now.
Tim's a good one to know if you don't already know him, by the way.
Well,
you would enjoy each other.
Okay.
He's good people like you. So I am born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, on the East Coast of the United States by two former teachers turned entrepreneurs. So I grew up in an environment of possibility where I thought it was normal to work for yourself. And, so I had a passion for lots of things when I was a kid, but I was very shy and very quiet and didn't really try to stand out. And I had an interest in health and human behavior and human potential and human performance and growth and all of these things. And so I worked in the wellness industry for 13 years and I was the director of well-being. And then 5 years ago, I said, you know what? My favorite part of my job is speaking. So I'm just going to not do any other part of my job. And I just want to go speak. And so now I've reached audiences around the world, whether it's virtually or in person. And I keynote at conferences. And 2 years ago, I pursued my childhood dream of wanting to be a singer and started releasing music and message-driven music. And so we met 5 months after I left my corporate job to start my own thing online.
It's unbelievable. Like, it's contradictory that you say that you were a quiet child because you are always so you talk and it's interesting, and like when I met you, it was just like and you're so likable because it was just like we had known each other for 100 years. So
100.
it's
Yeah.
if I would call your parents and ask them like
Mhm.
how was
Oh,
Rachel? Oh, she was loudmouthed.
mm-mm. No, let me show you. I'll show you a picture. This is to give you context. This is little me. So this is me when I was like 8 years old.
Oh, like the pink, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see it. So I was very like guarded and very shy and self-conscious. And I was soft-spoken. Like I didn't even have like I didn't have like a loud or animated voice. I didn't like run around singing with a hairbrush on the kitchen, the coffee table. I did not do that. I was so I look back at that version of myself. I keep this on my screen. This is something I would encourage anyone to do, honestly. And I look at her sometimes and I'm like I'm so proud of you for doing what you needed to do to like take care of yourself. And I'm so sorry you didn't get to experience more of the joy that I'm experiencing now, but I'm doing this for you.
But who in your household was running around and singing up on the kitchen table and stuff? Like how many were
Nobody.
you?
My brother was the one who was outgoing. My brother was the one who like was this like more of the showman, got attention. I was like, I'm just gonna fly under the radar and get good grades and be quiet. I'm gonna
And
be a
is he
good girl.
older or younger?
He's younger, 15 months younger. He's a salesman. He works in real estate. He's excellent at his job. He helped us buy our house, helped us sell our house. He's very charismatic, very like gregarious, super friendly. From the time he was little, would like walk up to anybody and start talking to them, and I was like, "Oh, no."
Uh-huh.
I was
But do
shy.
you know, have you because if your parents are teachers, like
Mhm.
they are used to talking to kids and stuff, have you talked to them about why do you become that way? Or like
Yeah.
you grow into this because nobody is like when you are born, if we give us that when you are
Mhm.
born, you are a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then you absorb everything from the environment and
Yeah.
what your parents give you, the love and stuff.
Mhm.
So what like have you talked to them about it? Because
Yeah.
you are nothing but unmuted. Or when we met, I was like, why does he has to unmute? Because you were like you speak
Mm.
well and you have something to say. Do you know get my drift? It
I
is
do
more
get your drift. Yeah. And I think, well, part of it, I was even as a little baby, like they said I would sit in the playpen and I would just entertain myself for long periods of time. So I was always, from the time I was very little, I was always very observant and I was always very like curious and like aware.
yeah,
But when I was about 4, so I think two things contributed to why I ended up being that way. One was that I was sick quite a bit when I was a kid. So I had chronic like ear, nose, and throat infections. I had my first surgery when I was 4 years old. And I had 5 surgeries from age 4 to age 16 to put under anesthesia. You wake up, you're disoriented, something in your body feels different. So I was sick. I mean, in third grade, I think I missed like 3 weeks of school. So I was very protective of myself. Like I was just naturally very protective. I was scared, and when you're scared and protective, you tend to shut down. And so,
yeah,
so part of it was that. And then the other part of it was my parents, when I was 5, went through a really difficult time in their marriage. They had 2 little kids. They were trying to figure out their own stuff. My dad had just started his business, and my mom was working in finance, and it was a lot for them. And they separated. There was a lot of yelling, and they separated when I was about 5 years old. We moved out, my brother and I, with my mom, to like an apartment, and they only stayed apart for like 3 months. Like we moved back in very quickly. They renewed their vows. They'll be celebrating 45 years of marriage this coming year.
who
Right. Yeah. 45. But I internalized that. So kids have a tendency, right, when they're in
yeah,
the midst of chaos, they either like become a distraction by causing more chaos,
yeah.
or they become really good and compliant so that they don't cause any more trouble. And so I became really good and compliant. My brother became the chaos.
I am married to one. Like she
You are
took it like yeah, she is very like she was really easygoing, good grades and everything.
Yeah. I want to make everybody happy.
Uh,
I want to make sure I don't upset or
yeah.
disappoint anybody or like rock the boat or get in trouble. So I was very good. And so when, so those are the reasons why I ended up being that way as a kid.
But now everything has changed. Maybe I should talk to your husband, because we need to talk to each other and we want to go back. No.
Yeah, well, he only knows me. I mean, we met in college. So by the time I got to college, he actually, you know what's funny that you say this? He and I met right after the catalyst for my unmuting.
Okay.
So we met when I was 20 years old. He was a freshman in college. I was a junior. I had spent a semester living abroad in southern Spain in the town of Granada. Have you been there?
I think so.
The Alhambra is there. It's like very,
Yes,
very southern Spain. It's like almost
I
in
have.
Africa.
Yeah, and the harbor is really spectacular.
Yeah, it's landlocked, but there's a Cadiz. There's a town called Cadiz that's like 2 hours away from it.
I think so.
But Granada, there's a river, there's like water and stuff. There's waterways there, but it's a beautiful city. And when you come from the States and you go live in Spain for 4 months, and the people there are expressive and vibrant and alive, and there's flamenco and there's bullfighting and there's food and there's vino and sangria and like all this stuff. And you can't be surrounded by that for 4 months and not be different. Like, you just can't. Shout out to Bill. Seriously.
I think Tim is just.
Tim knows Bill too.
Why don't we have Bill on the podcast? Why don't we have
He's
him
a teacher. He's at school right now teaching elementary school phys ed, and he doesn't like doing stuff like this. No. He will talk to a room. He will entertain and amuse and get the attention of 160 kindergarten to 8th graders. But if I'm like, hey, well, you want to be on a podcast and talk about you? He'd be like, not really. But so we compliment each other. So all that to say, I came back from that trip, and that is when I met him. And so I had already started. So he never knew the version of me before. I mean, he's seen me come out of my shell more. He's seen me step into my fullness more, pursue music. That's how we connected, actually, was through music. He's a musician. Well, he's plays saxophone. He was in jazz band in college and high school, and he has taught himself multiple instruments like piano and guitar and some drums.
I don't like those people because I don't have I can sing, but I can't the instruments.
You and me both. I don't play any instruments. People think I do. I'm like, who are these people? I can't even read music. I mean, I'm lucky I can write songs, but I work with somebody who can do all the other stuff. But so anyway, I came back and we met, and I thought he was really cute. And then
I don't know why I'm thinking about a flower, when it comes up and then it starts to open. So you go to Spain, and then you see stuff and you realize, I want a little bit of that.
Yes.
Or a lot, or just, I will take it all.
Yes. That felt good to feel so alive.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And I came back and I was like, I'm still going to do well in school. I'm still going to care about my grades, but if people are hanging out on a Thursday night, I'm going to go hang out with them. I became more social because in Spain, you're never alone. I was never alone. And I had a homestay with a woman and her granddaughter. And so I was never alone. And so when I came back, I was like, I want to be around people more, it just changed how I was wired and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be with.
But I think that is the thing with Spain, Italy, it's community.
Yes.
People belong. People are together. People do stuff. They go to the coffee store or coffee shop or in the evening, and they have the siesta and
cafe and the chocolate.
And we went there in 2015. I think the Alhambra thingy, the castle, and we went out for dinner at 7:00 or something.
Oh yeah,
and it was empty. It was nothing. And then at 10:00, all of a sudden, the parents came and the toddlers came, and we were just like, this is weird. Why are the toddlers here at 10:00? Shouldn't they be at home sleeping? But that is their culture, and it's a sense of belonging. Like our friend Paul Howry would say, the belonging, and we miss that. But how? Okay, Tim.
Tim, you are just I hope you're enjoying this as much as we are, Tim.
But is he the only member in the Rachel fan club? Sorry, Tim. Really need to. I think I will send him. I think I will send him a connection.
You should know each other. He's a wonderful guy,
But
producer, and yeah.
oh, maybe I could be a rock star or something.
For like
Do I have
live
to
stream shows and stuff. Sorry, my thing
uh,
got blurry for a second.
can I be a no? Uh,
Oh,
I get so easily distracted.
it's okay.
We mentioned in the beginning,
Mhm.
like we met in the spring of 2020, and then you had a horrible experience,
Mhm.
which maybe in a sense, like you were in the process of unmuting yourself,
Yes.
like doing stuff what you liked and wanted and all of that. But then something happened, and it was in May, and that maybe gave a rebirth to some, like to the music. And
Mhm.
so tell us a little bit about what happened, and then we can
Yeah.
like take it from there. Because isn't it odd that something horrific makes you change the path of a life, or like
Yeah.
go through it, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. We can talk about it. Sure. Um, so it was May of 2020, May 3rd, and I was out on a run with my husband, and we were about a half mile from our house, and there was a Chevy Silverado, like a pickup truck, that was stopped in the right-hand turn lane. And my husband ran across the street. We were talking to each other. We were like 15 feet apart. And he ran across, and I started to run across. And as I did, the pickup truck took a right turn at the red light. And so what happened is I started to sense that it was moving. And so I turned my body to face it, and I put my hands up on the hood. And I thought that that would be enough to get the driver to stop moving, right? Because it's like someone puts their hands on your hood, you would probably notice that.
Yeah.
He did not. And so he drove, I don't know how many feet, 15, 20 feet with me, like kind of hanging on to the front of his truck. And then he slammed on the brakes and I slid off. And I was probably 2 to 3 feet off the ground when I slid. So when I landed really hard, and it caused a fracture in my spine. And I was terrified. My husband saw the whole thing happen because he had started to turn. He sensed the driver was moving, and he started to turn his body to wave off the driver, to be like, there's a person coming behind me, you know? And I don't know what happened. I couldn't even tell you what the driver looked like in a lineup. I have no recollection of his face. And I was rushed to the hospital, and it was very scary because it was during the pandemic. And so you couldn't have any visitors. I didn't have my cell phone. I was just there for like 10 hours waiting for, my husband to come get me at some point once I got cleared to leave. And I remember one of the very first people who texted me the next day was Kevin
Yeah.
Monroe. He was one of the
Yeah.
very first people, like one of the first like 3 people that contacted me and said he was praying for me. And one of the first cards that I got was from like the first cards that I got were from people within the Humans First community, people that I'd never even met in person. And the outpouring of love and support that I so desperately needed during that time. I mean, I was in a back brace for 2 months, and I was in physical therapy for almost a year. I slept in a recliner for 3 months. Eh, and I had to keep showing up and do my job as a speaker, helping people build hope and resilience in the midst of
Yeah.
uncertainty. But I'm like, this is not a backpack, it's a back brace. But I'm just going to keep speaking. So it was so hard because I didn't get a chance to pause. Like I really needed a few months to like physically, psychologically, emotionally begin to recover from that. And I didn't have the opportunity to stop because I had to keep running my business.
But is it your system? Because here you would have gotten like a sick leave for as
I'm
long as you
self-employed.
could. Yeah. So that is something that is hard. Like, but
Yeah,
the insurance thing, like, which is very much a big topic in the US now.
it sure is.
Like, but did you go there for 10 hours? Did you leave the hospital after 10 hours?
Yeah, I was there for 10 hours. They wouldn't even let him drop off my phone so I could like contact people, or my purse. They wouldn't let people, it was at a time where they wouldn't even let people like leave things. We were like washing our groceries from the outside. That was
Okay.
that. I wasn't, but that's like what people were doing. So like they didn't know how it was being spread. So they were so afraid of anybody coming in and to a hospital that didn't need to be there. And so I'm like blinking lights and all these different doctors are coming in and you're having CT scans and MRIs and x-rays and all of these things for them to diagnose you, you know? And I felt so alone at a time where I really needed to like be held and comforted. You know, it was really just that day is a tough day.
I thought that you had been in the hospital for some weeks.
Oh, fortunately, no. I was because it was a compression fracture. So
Yeah.
when you have if it's a compression fracture, imagine a tin can that gets scrunched. That's what happened to my vertebrae. Is my vertebrae got squished basically. So I lost some bone mass. But I couldn't, when it's healing, you can't like move
Yeah.
like for like 2 months, even just to get it to begin to heal. And then I couldn't start doing things like little hops or for like 4 or 5 months, you know, because the bone is still filling in. So I guess I'm a little bit shorter, but
I was thinking about, should I ask her if she's short or not?
I think I was like a third. It was like a 30% compression on one vertebrae. So I don't know.
But
I'll
you
make the
still have a
joke.
knack. You
I'll
still
make the
have a
joke
knack.
for you. It's my lower.
Yeah.
It's right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
interestingly enough, it's right where your diaphragm muscles cross over is the vertebrae. It's the lowest because your T12,
Yeah.
it's the lowest thoracic vertebrae. So it's right where your diaphragm muscles cross over. So I felt like I got the wind knocked out of me. And then to your point, what do you do with something like this? Right. So I started, updating people on LinkedIn. And by that point, I'd been singing little snippets of things to encourage people like Hakuna Matata, you know, what a
Yeah.
wonderful phrase, or different things to just uplift myself too. And then about 7, 8 months later, I was like, I need an outlet. Like I need a release of some kind. And I thought back to the thing that brought me so much joy as a kid that I was afraid to share, which was singing. And so I hired a virtual voice coach, and we had every Monday we had a session. It was like the highlight of my week. And I didn't even have a goal. It's not like I was like performing in concerts. You know what I mean? I just was like, I want to learn to sing better. And so we started working together. And then about 1.5 years later, I was talking to a coach I was working with, and she's like, Rachel, you should post music videos on LinkedIn. And I was like, of what?
Toto or Eagles.
You know, whatever. And I was like, of what? She was like, oh, like covers of other people's music. And I was like, okay. So I contacted a guy I knew locally who did that. And I'm going to mention Tim's comment in a moment here. But I contacted a guy named Leroy who just started a music production company, like just graduated college. You know what I mean? And we sat down together and I looked at him and we met in the studio in his basement. And he looked at me and he said, what do you want to write your first song about? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. I'm here to record other people's songs. Like I don't know. I can't read music. I don't play any instruments. I see the request from Tim. We should honor this.
Yeah.
Kid.
Maybe that would be a surprise.
Maybe.
And he is
yeah.
totally enjoying this. So let's
keep
that in mind.
He is, you know.
And sorry. So you were in the studio and he said that you should write music you don't know dip.
I'm like, how am I going to do that? Right. And then
Yeah.
I was like, well, if you were to write a song, like, what would it be about? And I had not contemplated this before this session because I'm like, okay, which covers am I going to record? Other people's songs. And then I said, well, you know, last night I watched this documentary. I highly recommend every human being watch this documentary. It's on Netflix. It's called Bully. Like when people bully each other. It's called Bully. And it's these stories of these 6 kids who, varying ages, elementary to high schoolers, who were bullied in some way, teased, harassed by their peers. And half of the kids took their own lives. And some of these kids are 11 years old. I mean, it just devastating. You're watching this and you're like, this is just so horrible and so sad and so unnecessary, you know? And I'm watching this, and one of the kids' name's Ty Smalley. And his dad's name is Kirk. And Kirk and his wife, they started a nonprofit after their son died called A Stand for the Silent. And the intent was to deliver anti-bullying messages to schools and to focus on mental health, raising mental health awareness and support. So they gave everybody at all their events, they had footage from different events that they put on. And they gave everybody a bracelet, like, the Live Strong type bracelet, silicone bracelet that said, I am somebody on the bracelet. And so I said to Leroy, I said, I guess if I were to write a song, I'd want to write a song about being somebody, because I feel like everybody wants to feel like they're somebody and so many people don't feel like they are. So he starts playing. He said, okay, well, what does this person need to hear? What's get in their headspace? And so I started saying, well, when I was a kid, I felt like in order to be somebody, I had to achieve and I had to perform and I had to impress and I had to accomplish. That who I was insufficient. I had to demonstrate my value in some way. And I know that a lot of people feel that way, that like who I am is not enough. I need to help people. I need to be impressive in order to get attention, in order to be seen. And so Leroy starts playing the opening chords of the song. And let me just see if I can.
I was trying to get your music, but yeah.
He starts playing these chords. And I just sat there and I looked at him and I was like, did you just make that up? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is going to work. I was speechless. I was like, how does someone just come up with that?
Yeah,
and
we
then
don't like them. We don't like them, but we love them.
So he starts doing that. And then he goes, all right, I want you to hum over it. And I want you to find a melody line. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm like, like, I just start, I don't. And he's like, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, okay. So the way that the song came to be was I sort of hummed a melody over top of what he was playing. I felt so unqualified and like so unsure of myself because I'd never done anything like this before. And then we went in and backfilled it with lyrics. And then when I left that session with him, I still have the audio message, the voice memo. Voice memos are so fun. I got home. It was a Friday afternoon and I was obsessed. Like I had been unleashed. I could not stop thinking about this song. And I had work to do. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that work. And all I could think about was what I wanted to say in this song. And so I sent this to Leroy. I don't even know what this sounds like. So but I sent this to Leroy. Let me just see if this is. Hold on. Okay, wait. Is this it? Hold on. Okay, so I sent this to him when I left his house, okay? We had not worked on this part of the song. You know what the song actually sounds like, but this is what I recorded to him. You are somebody. You are somebody. You are somebody. So I'm doing that, coming up with it as I'm doing it. And then I'm like, oh, wait, you matter and you are enough. Like, you are somebody. And then I was like, what if it's that? What if that's the chorus at the end of the song? And I got so excited about it and I sent it to him. He's like, yeah. And then I started writing the next verse, of the second verse, which I'm blanking on right now. But, I just sent it. I just kept sending him these messages and I was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then we got together every other week for 2 weeks. I mean, for every other week. Yeah. For 5 months. And then in January, it took 5 months to get that one song out. And then when the day it released, I lost my ever-loving mind and my husband recorded it. And it was one of the most joyful days of my whole life.
And it's a great song. It's a great song. It is just unbelievable that. And I was just, when you talked in the Humans First, and then wasn't it the Teal, like the the other group that we were in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned.
The Extraordinary Life.
Yes, thank you. Why? How could I
Pull that
forget
out of
that?
nowhere.
Yeah, like you were talking about this, and I was just like, yeah, right. That must cost a whole lot of money and blah 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 blah. Every
Yeah.
like because my own limitations maybe
Yeah.
they came through,
Ah.
and then I listened to the song and like, God damn, she did it, and it's unbelievable. And like,
Oh.
but what you were saying about when you were talking to him and like, why is it that we don't believe in ourselves? Why is it that we are never good enough? Why is it that we always have to like put us down? And you said ever because of the bullies. I think I have seen the bullies
The
documentary on
documentary.
Netflix. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then but bullyism is the worst. I was
Mhm.
bullied. I survived, but it was not like where I was. I think I got my revenge on the guys. Like I became better. I
Yeah.
allowed myself to be
Mm.
better than them, and I have like whatever how you explain it. But why is it that people have to nitpick on people who are doing stuff? You are following your dream.
Mhm.
I could have said, "Oh, Rachel, like cut it out, like don't do it." But there is something about the dreams, isn't it?
Mhm.
And that's why when I because I have been working with young people in my entire life, and I try to say to them like, you are so much more than you think you are.
Yeah.
Go out, try stuff. Don't be afraid,
Mhm.
because maybe I was always like, why aren't you an actor?
Mm.
But back in the days, there were only so and so many who were in the theatric school in Iceland. And they were only 8, and you had to do a blah blah blah, blah.
Mhm.
And it was a hard process, and and then you just go back. I wanted to be a successful businessman with
Mm.
a tie and a fat cigar and stuff. But then I realized, I think I was 14 or something,
Mm.
that I wanted to work with people, because and being interested in people, and lifting people up,
Mm.
and so all the things you mentioned. But do you know, like, when you go back, because you say somewhere that you were in a choir, weren't you? You were singing like
In
when you were a
gospel choir
child.
when I got back from
Yeah,
Spain.
yeah. So that is a passion. Like, but why is it that you do? Like, was it when you have the accident,
Mm.
and luckily you didn't get any like head
A head
injury,
injury, correct.
but and when you are going through life,
Mhm.
like, when is it that, like, your husband, like, did he see you? Did you
Mm.
cry all along? Was he like, Rachel, I don't know what to do? Because we
Mm.
are so good caretakers.
He is such a good character. I think honestly, I think because he has an older sister with special
Ah,
needs, he has a deep well of compassion
yeah,
and like a reserve of patience that goes beyond anyone I've ever met.
yeah,
And he was just present with whatever needed to happen. Like sometimes I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, like in excruciating pain, and I needed him, and I had to wake him up. We couldn't sleep together for 4 months because my back, I needed to be stable.
yeah,
And so he'd be in the other room, and I would have to call out to him, and he would have to come get me because sometimes the only thing I had spasms in my back for the first like 2 months. And he would have to like take me to the shower and just like help me step into it, put the water on, help me dry off, help me get out, help me get dressed. I mean, if I was in the recliner and I had to get up to use the restroom, he had to help me do that. He had to do all of the cooking, all of the shopping. Like, it's like, even as I'm saying it now, it's like he went through so much caring for me, and he was still
yeah,
teaching phys ed from our basement, from behind a computer, while all of this was happening. And he just showed up with like just this quiet, steady loyalty and support. And I had friends that came around. Somebody at my a friend of mine named Lynn set up a meal train. I don't know if they have these where you are, but it's meal train. People can sign up to bring meals for somebody.
Yeah.
And so if a woman I'd never met before, we were on a panel together. We hadn't even had the panel yet. The panel was a week after the accident. I still showed up for it, but virtually. And she was like, I want to set up a meal train for you and your husband. And my first thought was like, we can afford, like, we don't need to do that. You know, my first thought was like, I don't want to be a burden. And she was like, no, we're going to bring you your first meal tomorrow. So what do you need to fill this out with me? And so for the next 5 weeks, people dropped off meals. People sent us like DoorDash gift cards. They would be at the grocery store and they'd reach out and say, hey, do you guys need anything? I can pick up something and drop it off to you. I mean, it was just our church, like people at our church really showed up. And it was a reminder. You said this before about community. It was a reminder of the importance of being in community with people, because my husband needed that support as much as I did. Like, and he's still working through that now because he didn't get a chance to process it almost 5 years ago. And so now he's still working through, like, he didn't really get to, he was terrified. He saw what happened. He had nightmares for a week of it going differently.
And that is something that I resonate with, because my wife, back in the days when we had to go through IVF with the kids, she had to get the hormones, she had to get this and that, and I was just a bystander. And then, of course, when she got pregnant, and then like the kids came, and people, you know, in all of this, I remember how I became less and less of a man, because I couldn't do what is the norm. And you start talking to yourself in a or not talk to yourself, or you just, you're ridiculous, you can't do this. And then when we went to the clinic and they said, well, we only need one good swimmer. And I was just like, it was like a pink cloud. And I was just like, you know, it was like I had a win or something.
Yeah.
But but take like Bill or the women who take care of the husband, or like whatever it is, it's always almost for granted that they are there.
Yeah.
But as in Bill's case, maybe he has to talk to somebody just to get the outlet.
Yeah.
Like
he has.
Yeah. So but because you mentioned you don't want to be a burden on people, did you ever lay there? Because I assume that you were just like a zombie in a bed, stuck between pillows and.
Oh, I cried so much. I cried more in that season of my life. Like, I remember it was in May, because the accident happened in May. It was probably 2 weeks after the accident. And in our old house, we lived in a different house at the time. We had a bay window that looked out into the street. And it was the most beautiful day in May. It was probably 75 degrees, no humidity, just like we can have some really beautiful weather in that time of the year. And I saw a guy running past our house. And I just turned to Bill. I didn't have to say anything. I just turned to him to be held and to cry, because I was like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that again. I didn't have a timeline for when I was going to feel, when I was going to be okay enough to move the way that I wanted to. And I'd never been in a situation like that before, physically.
No, but and of course, because we assume that life is just a straight road. You just be born and you just live, and like maybe it's now time to put Tim's like cancer changed his life, and it's funny, like in a way, when politicians, they don't know what they're talking about, but then it happens to them, then they become evolved, then they realize, because if you have not experienced stuff,
Yeah.
then you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know. I mean, Tim, going through his cancer journey, he now has a show that he does, a live stream show called Showing Up: Perspectives on Cancer. And he brings on people who are going through different versions of a cancer journey or how their life's been affected by it. And they share their story. And he's created a community where people don't have to feel alone with something that is still such a taboo thing to talk about, even though like everybody
Which
you've
is
ever met.
weird. Yeah,
It's just weird because everybody you've ever
weird.
met
Yeah.
knows someone who's had cancer, who's they've lost somebody to cancer, they've had cancer themselves. Like, and he creates a space for that, but he has deep empathy for people because he's in it himself and he gets it. And there's just something about being in connection with somebody who's been through hard things, that there's certain things go unsaid. Certain things don't have to be said because there's just an understanding and a knowing of like, you get what it is to have a dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
There's a connection with that.
And it's difficult not to feel the empathy for people who are like, because as egoistic it can be, you don't want to be the person like you like, do you know what I mean? Like I know, like when you are thinking about this, then you realize you have only the one life.
Yeah.
Why waste it?
I waste
Why?
it.
And I find it unbelievable. And I just listened to your song Light Bulbs, your newest song, and she has made a video. Yes. And it's just be the light, or like be the beacon of hope or life or whatever. But because life is precious.
Yeah.
And if you're always bitching about life, bitching about this and that, and well, I feel sorry for you guys in the US because like you are on a path that's horrible.
There's a lot.
There are so much negativity, but hopefully you just have to go through it. But let's talk a little bit about Unmuted, because the one thing that you want to be seen, like I sense you want to be seen. You don't want to be in hiding. You don't want to be that girl on your phone. Like you want to make a difference. And people, that's why inspiring conversations. Like, what is it like? Not everybody can go to Spain, or
Right.
like, but how can you? I always tell people, what did you like when you were a kid?
Yes.
When you were at your best, when you were younger, what was it that you dreamt of? What was your dreams? Or like, why pursue something that I always remember when my father called me when I was studying in Denmark and I was in kindergarten, because they wanted to see if I had the ability to be, working with people or kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, "Are you working in kindergarten?" Yes, I said. Yeah, now you go into your room and you will pack your things. You will be home tomorrow. Like, it was almost a 24-hour trip, because I was in the countryside in Denmark, and then I had to go to Copenhagen and like a whole lot of stuff. And I was just like, you know what, Dad? I am doing what I like. And if I, in 20 years' time, still enjoying life in kindergarten, he was born in 1929, so I was really harsh. And I said, maybe you will be dead, but I'm still doing what I like.
Yeah.
This is my life. I'm not like doing it so you can walk around and say, yeah, my son is, he's a doctor, he's that. Like, and that was me and my wife, we talked about it a lot. Like, our kids, they can do whatever they like as long as they are happy. And they, like my daughter, she finished criminology in the UK. He is working in some warehouse, and he is like happy. They are happy. Like, I am not going to say,
Yeah.
because I only had them for a loan, like for 18 years, and then they became grown-ups, and
Yeah.
I just have to hope for the best.
Yeah.
But of course, sometimes I push her a little bit more than I push him.
Mm,
So I that's why I find your story so intriguing, that
mm,
you went for it. You
yeah.
just here's Rachel Druckenmiller, and I'm unmuted. Try to stop me, and then like you just went for it. So, but
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your stuff. Like, why unmuted? Why
Mm,
it's a beautiful name.
thanks. Yeah. So it was interesting. I'm a journaler, so I have like stacks of journals from years. I haven't been doing it as actively in the past 3 years, but I still do keep them. And I first wrote about it in 2015. So I was the director of well-being at the company where I worked, and I was just mapping out some thoughts I had around different things. And I was a health coach, and I taught like healthy cooking classes. I had a food blog called Rachel's Nourishing Kitchen, and I had learned to heal my body from all the sicknesses I had as a kid by changing my diet. And so I had also learned about the importance of just like having a colorful plate. And so I thought about, gosh, what am I helping people to do to like unmute their plate, you know? So it first started me thinking about it through the lens of food. And then I started to dig into it a bit more. And I thought about, when I burned out in 2017 and got Epstein-Barr virus, which is an acute form of mono, I was very sick. And I had never seen a therapist before. I was the kind of person who felt like I had to have it all together, and I didn't need help, and I was good, and I had to be the best, and I just needed you to see how impressive I was all the time. Even if I was struggling, I didn't let people know when I was having a hard time. And so going through that experience opened me up in another way, talking about that flower earlier. And I started seeing a therapist for the first time. I started being honest with people at work and friends about when I was having a hard time. And so like I'm gradually going through this process of unmuting my body and then starting to like, unmute different aspects of who I was, with Spain being the catalyst back in 2004. And I when I was going to launch my business, I was like, what do I want to call this? Like what do I want to be about? What do I want to stand for? Because when you leave your corporate job and you start a business, you want to call it something.
Uh,
And I went back and forth and all like illuminate and da 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 da. I had this whole list of all these things I wanted to maybe call it. And then I was like, well, I just keep coming back to this word unmuted, because I want to help people to unmute themselves, because so many of us silence ourselves. And when I left my business, I felt like a really big declaration when I'm like, I'm leaving my corporate job and my company's called Unmuted. And I hadn't done anything with music at that point. So like that part of my journey had not unfolded, but I felt like what I wanted to stand for. And I still didn't even know fully what it meant at the time to me, but now it's taken on a new meaning as I've gone through this journey, as I've gone through the accident. And it was really helpful. And so I look back, you asked where this stuff comes from. Here's an exercise you can do that anybody who checks this out, whether now or they're recording, can do this exercise. I did it when I was a sophomore in high school. It was called, you're talking about dreaming before. This was something called your occupational daydreams. So it was a list the occupations you've considered and thinking about your future. List the careers you have daydreamed about, as well as those you've discussed with others. Try to give a history of your daydreams. Put your most recent choice on line 1 and work backwards to the earlier jobs you've considered. So here's what was on my list. You could do this. I'd be curious. I'm going to ask you afterwards if you have a thought on what. I'm so curious. Okay. So the most recent thing I had, like at the time when I was 15, was psychologist. So I ended up getting a degree in psychology in college. So that tracked. The second thing was doctor. The third was nutritionist or dietitian. This was when I was 15. I wrote this down. The fourth is a writer. The fifth is an outlier, a mathematician, because I liked math when I was a kid. It was my favorite subject. So I was like, well, what does somebody who likes math do? They become a mathematician. I didn't know. And then the most recent, the earliest thing I ever remembered wanting to be was a singer.
And this is when you're 15.
15. I keep things like this. So I look back at this and I was like, well, gosh darn it. A version of all of these things has come true, because I got a degree in psychology, and then I didn't become a doctor, but I got a master's degree in health science, and I became a health coach. And then nutritionist. I started a food blog and I taught healthy cooking classes to people. I'm writing my first book right now. It's going to come out in the spring of 2026. I have to understand math to run my own business.
Yeah.
And I'm a singer, so I feel like I've gotten to be a version of all of the things I said I wanted to be when I was 15. By just creating an unconventional path. Like I made up my own job that didn't exist. So I'm curious for you, like what would be on that list for you?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor, but
Yeah.
somehow I pressed it. So I was in 2007. I participated in the local community theater.
And
Been then done that. I was there for several years and participated in some like child's play, uh, farce. A lot
yeah.
of doors and running in around and blah blah blah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, but what the hardest part was because you were at work 100%, and then you had to be on the stage
Oh,
100, like,
okay.
and that combination, and I was so tired. I was so tired. And then this to be on radio or whatever, and that is my outlet now because I was telling a lady today about in the International Week of Happiness at Work in last week of September, I did 10 sessions of this.
Oh my gosh.
And session 5, I was just like, oh my God, I am living my life. I am like, this is the best thing ever. None of those 5 sessions were boring.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, they were just like, I was so energized and I was like, this is fun. That's why when I discovered, like, yeah, I need to do this, I need
Yeah.
to have inspiring conversations. And before, when you were talking, I got a little Kevin Monroe coming, channeling through me because writing stuff sometimes do come true.
Yes. Like what he started with his with this extraordinary life,
Yes.
right? Like that started as something I think written down, wasn't it? In like July of the year before,
Yeah, and he just like, and it's just
right?
unbelievable how his journey has been. But I think that yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, but maybe it's because also you don't care right now. You are at the stage of, yeah, I
Oh,
am,
I do
I
care.
am done. Yeah, but I am done of
Yeah.
I have never pleased people. Sometimes my wife is just like, can you please? And I'm just like, no. I say stuff, and people are just like, what?
What? I
But
care more than I want to, but it's only because my motivation is impact. And I'm like, I deeply care about what I do because I want to be able to have as much impact. But I'm going to do it that, like, if some people have said to me, like, if I sing as part of a keynote, right? Somebody might be like, some people might be like, oh my gosh, I love the singing. That was so amazing. And then somebody might be like, it was a little weird that she sang. Okay.
yeah,
I'm not for you. Like,
yeah.
fine. Well, what joy do you have in your life that somebody else is critiquing? Oh wait, nobody. Okay.
That is the key thing in this because
Yeah.
you are doing it for yourself.
Yes.
You are presenting yourself unmuted.
Yeah.
This is what I do. What gives you joy? I
Exactly.
love speaking. We too, we both are like, we love speaking.
Yeah. Of course.
And it is just like, why is it that we are so busy thinking about everybody else?
Yeah.
And I
It's
always,
natural.
yeah, but I always go back to the Dirty Dancing film when Patrick Swayze, he's teaching Jennifer Grey to dance, and he says, "This is my space. This is your dance space. Don't like disturb me."
Yeah.
But it is like, how much can you control?
Your attitude and your actions. That's about it.
It's only you, yeah. Because what other people say, well, okay, granted, we have to have our spouses with us, but because
Sure.
they have to, like, if they don't like us,
Yeah, their opinions do matter. They're
yeah. So we do it in
yeah.
cohesion. But it is just, I'm at the age that I just want to try stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to paraglide. I'm not going to skydive and stuff like that.
But if you don't want to, then that's
Yeah.
irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like if you
But
wanted
yeah,
to, you could, but if you don't want to,
yeah.
then like
No, but I can talk to people. I can like do what you're doing.
yeah.
Maybe like I have to.
We're talking right now. This is a conversation.
Yes, and
It's
that
an
is
it's an
fun.
inspiring conversation, I think.
Yes, and now
See what I
we
did
have
there?
been. Do you know that we have been talking for
Almost an hour. Wow.
almost an hour?
What can I
Time flies
say?
when you're having fun.
It
And
sure
I
does.
like your story. That's why I was just like, I need to get Rachel.
Oh, well, thank you.
But it is also when you hit the wall, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when you everything starts to come back to you, and why am I doing stuff that I don't like?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and
And who am I doing it for? Am I doing it for a parent that yelled at me when I was 6? Am I
yeah,
doing it for the teacher who I always tried to impress? Am I
yeah,
doing it like who am I doing it for? Because people ask me all the time about my music. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like how successful is your music?" And I was like, "What does that even mean? How
yeah.
successful is my music? You mean how much money am I making? How many streams do I have?" That's not I've made $73 and I have about 19,000 streams of my music.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because she wanted to do it and I never let her. And
That
now
is
I'm letting her.
exact the same thing with inspiring conversations. I don't give like. Luckily, we have Tim.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tim.
But who knows? People are lurkers, right? Sometimes there's people that are there, they
Yeah,
just don't engage. Or they see
and
it after the fact.
yeah, but I am having the time of my life.
This is
Yes, and
connection.
I'm
Yes.
talking to interesting people, and I like
Yeah.
your story is just and but okay, my wife's story is also she had discus pull-ups and she was like you can't do sports anymore. She is a competitive lady, so she started knitting and then she started evolving and she started sewing and now she is heavily into sustainability and upcycling clothes and
Wow.
just yeah, like. But my best story is when she was in the women's choir and she was talking to, they have this committee who runs the choir. And she was like, yeah, I think I will participate in the committee. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, good for you. Always rooting. Yeah. And then she said, yeah, I think I will chair the committee. And I was like, who are you and what have you done to my wife?
You're taking charge of things? What is this?
And I was just like, wait a minute, you have to stand in front of people and talk to them. And she was like, yeah, it's time to
Oh,
step out of
wow.
that thing. You know,
You must have
and
been so
when,
proud.
yes, because this is what I have been doing.
Yeah.
I'm the idiot of the fact, like, I always ask the stupid questions and stuff because when you break the ice, then people dare. Then they
Yeah.
want to say, like, they are sitting listening to something, and then you say stuff, idiotic or not, and the person who is talking, they say, no, 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 it's a legit question. And then people start to fawn, like they are starting to like, okay, I can ask these questions because
Yeah.
I will not burn inside. Like, and so she was because it's always the first time is
Mm.
difficult,
Yeah.
then the second time is a little bit less difficult, and then so on. And because you mentioned also that you had a burnout, perfection
Mhm.
is the worst enemy of all.
It is.
There is nothing in the world. I think unperfect is the best thing in the world.
Well, all of us are. It's just a matter of acknowledging it, because like for
Yeah.
so long it was like I need to have the perception, like in the song Light Bulbs, one of the lyrics, my favorite line that I wrote in that song is just be the strong ones, the nothing's ever wrong one, the go along to get along one, you're fine. Because
Hmm.
it's like that's the message that so many people internalize. I need to be the strong one. I need to just go along to get along. Like you know, that's how people feel like they have to be. And that's
And
why I wrote
then
that
we have
song.
to, yeah, and then we
Yeah.
have to give Bill a chance of like he has to go to and see somebody, like he has to talk
Yes.
about it because
No,
this,
he does, and he is. He's
yeah.
getting that support,
So,
which is
but
great.
Rachel, you are the best.
I can't wait to meet in person one day. It's going to happen at some point. It's got to
Of
happen.
course.
Gotta
I
happen.
will be in the VIP section at your concert in when you do your European tour.
Oh, hey, here we go.
Oh,
Hey, check on the light bulbs. Yeah.
yes. And where you are on Spotify, Apple Pie, no, what the
Apple pie. I love that you said that. Apple pie, pumpkin pie, apple
Yeah.
peaches, pumpkin pie. Who's not ready? Holla. I can turn anything into a song.
iTunes. Yeah, you are on fire.
I can't help it.
It's called
Let's go.
iTunes. Sorry.
Give me a line. Give me a line. It's like.
So after this, we will have a new song called Apple Pie. But like, thank you very much. It is. I know you are busy, and it is just unbelievable how. But your story is just great, and if people get just an ounce of something that they can take away and go for it, join the community theater if you have had that dream or what, just
take the dance class, do
Yes.
karaoke, build
Yes.
that thing, like
Yes.
pick up that paintbrush, like do whatever the thing is that lights you up inside. Like even if you suck at it, give yourself a chance to try it.
I think Picasso, he is the only one who got away with it, like not going to school because it was all crooked and like.
He did okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
but everybody has like, it's a process, it's a journey.
It's true.
So like, you're great, you're the best, and I have this code up there for your website and stuff.
Love
and
it.
just because you are the last before Christmas, so next time the next conversation will be on January 9th, where I will be talking to Jane Atchett Grant.
She's amazing.
Yes, and she is heavenly into listening. And we will talk about like the subject is listening to ignite the best thinking, ideas, and self-expressions in you. So
perfect.
Rachel Druckenmiller, like it's like I'm trying to be German. I'm trying to be German. I appreciate
it.
Yes. Well, you haven't said. Have you tried saying my name?
Heden.
You remember Kevin? He still can't after almost 5 years. He can't still say it.
Heden. Yes, it's like a little. Heden.
Do a song about that.
Heden. Oh, that's a challenge too. I did have somebody message me about doing a jingle. She wants me to do a jingle for her YouTube channel. I'm like, that's something I've never been asked to do before. I'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a Christmas album next year.
Yes. Oh, we forgot to talk about the event yesterday where you were.
Oh no, I'm doing I'm going to record Christmas songs and release them next year.
God damn, you are a powerhouse.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
You are amazing. Yeah, stay tuned. On pumpkin pie. No, on apple pie. On apple pie.
Mic drop. Done.
Yeah. Thank everybody for watching, and I hope you will have a Merry Christmas and a great New Year, and we see each other in 2025.